was indifferent. I dare you to catch me. Next, that I wanted more materials on the Heaven and Earth Society and the Earth Book. Also, if he wanted to go to Archives A, B, or C, the waiter explained further. Archives B and C correspond to bronze gongs and gold gongs, respectively, while Archive A can only be entered by those close to Lord Noi. Fortunately, materials on the Heaven and Earth Society and the Earth Book are also in Archive D. The Heaven and Earth Society is a Jianghu organization, and the Earth Book is a legendary ancient magic artifact. Neither of these is a secret. After researching the materials, that got a rough understanding. There are thousands of organizations in the Jianghu. Among them are some good and bad business organizations, but they obediently follow the control of the imperial court. In addition, there are hidden forces in the Jianghu. They are not willing to submit to the court, but their existence also creates a stable security aspect, occasionally suppressing spontaneous bandits. The Heaven and Earth Society is one of the most despised organizations in the Jianghu. According to related records, they first appeared in the first Jiazi year. That year, Yun province suffered a severe drought, and many good people became bandits, looting everywhere. So the Jianghu forces joined with the court to suppress the bandits. The Heaven and Earth Society was one of those organizations. Although they look quite righteous on the surface, it was probably to gain fame. But there is very little information related to whether the Heaven and Earth Society is still active. But if they can force an Earth sect master to flee into the city, it means they are an organization with immense power. For such an organization, hiding intelligence from the Dagung Run is a reasonable matter. That hesitated whether to report to Brother Swan to get more study materials. But that would mean the 500 tales would be gone, and the Earth Book would go into the National Treasury. He still chose to look at more materials about the Earth Book. First, the document records that this item is an ancient treasure of unknown origin, only that it was left by that nameless Daozun. This type of ancient treasure is most likely born from heaven and earth, a natural object that cannot be man-made. But going around in circles, they still share the common feature of requiring blood to claim ownership. Then quickly took his own blood and dripped it onto the treasure. The blood was immediately absorbed by the mirror. Instantly, that An's head spun and his eyes blurred. His consciousness entered a strange space. Around him were 8 points of light, representing 8 other mirrors. Adding his own, it was exactly the number 9. Accordingly, codename 9 is one of these points of light. He randomly pressed one, and immediately the light was like a firework, then brought him back to reality. But the chat frame on the mirror now showed the codename 6. This person was strongly reminding him not to trust codename 9 and not to answer him. That fell into deep thought. This codename 6 was the point of light he had touched just now. His words implied that codename 9 was deceiving him. Our guy was unsettled by a bunch of things that didn't add up. If codename 9 was really deceiving him, what was the reason? If codename 6 already knew codename 9 was deceiving him, why didn't he say so sooner? The young man was as tangled as a ball of yarn. What the hell? I don't believe it. He then questioned him, "Are you from the Heaven and Earth Society?" and received a positive answer. The other party explained his earlier words. The Earth Book belongs to the Heaven and Earth Society. Codename 9 is a person from the Earth sect. They're a bunch of crazy, brutal people. He advised that absolutely not have contact with them, otherwise his life might be in danger. As for how the other party knew codename 9 had contacted that the mirror fragment with codename 3 that held had been sealed by the people of the Earth sect. Therefore, they could no longer communicate with each other. And the people of the Earth sect could determine the location of codename 3 through the mirror fragment of codename 9. That is the reason why Elder Kim Lean could give up the mirror fragment and give it to that. And all of that N's doubts were now answered. If he agreed to trade with codename 9, he would get the mirror and could also eliminate him. If he did not agree to trade, he could also stall for time until he determined the location of him. Who can understand this sorrow? Codename 6 at this time expressed his helplessness. At that time, they could see the conversation between the two through the Earth Book, but were powerless to do anything. Waiting until the young man used his blood to claim ownership and establish a relationship between them. Codename 6 hoped that it would return the Earth Book to the Heaven and Earth Society. He would give him the address, and that An's job was to call a shipper to deliver it. That was extremely angry, so the young man's trust was blinded by 500 tales. He didn't trust any of them. Codename 6 was not necessarily a good person either. He might also be leading the young man by the nose. There was a contradiction in codename 6 words. According to him, the Earth Book is a treasure of the Heaven and Earth Society. Codename 9 is a person from the Earth sect. This means the Earth sect is eyeing the Earth Book. But according to the internal records of the Dagung Run, the Earth Book is a treasure of the Taoist Earth sect, and the Heaven and Earth Society is just a Jianghu organization. This statement has a huge pile of inconsistencies. Codename 6 understood that An's doubts and explained. It is true that the Earth Book was a treasure of the Earth sect, but that was in the past. Now it belongs to the Heaven and Earth Society. The Heaven and Earth Society was formed from a part of the people of the Earth sect. This matter is related to the secrets of the Earth sect, so he would not reveal more. That understood. The two then agreed on an address on Yangshui Street in the capital, a house opposite the Zhang clan silk shop, with a camellia tree planted in the courtyard. After finishing his business, That picked up his tea and drank. You have 3 choices before you. One is to trust Luke Hugh and return the mirror. You can hire a shipper to deliver it, so you don't have to consider Luke Hugh's identity or worry about Hugh locating you. 2 is to trade with Hugh, but you risk being double-crossed. In return, if you bet correctly, you'll get 500 taels of gold. 3 is to hand the Earth Book over to the Watchman in exchange for merit. The Yamen will surely like this kind of ancient treasure. That eunuch, Noi Yuyan, will absolutely not stand by and do nothing. That had just joined the Watchman with no merits or resources, so he could use the Earth Book to exchange for a brilliant future. Thus, the fellow decided on the third option. The meeting point was at Hao Kai Lao. That appeared anxious as he ran over to ask someone to report to Lord Noi. The 2 guards stopped him, saying that a copper gong with business should report to a silver gong. The fellow maintained a grave face as if the world was about to end and shouted, "The silver gong isn't here. The situation is urgent. Hurry and report it." The other person was scared witless and ran off. That had no other choice. This matter could not be known by many people. Both the Heaven and Earth Society and the Taoist sect's Earth sect were major powers. They might not dare to take revenge on the Watchman, but he still had a family, so he had to erase his tracks in this matter. He couldn't let people pay attention to him. At the top floor of Hao Kai Lao at this moment, Lord Noi was still waiting for that and with his hand behind his back. When he arrived, he asked what the matter was. That greeted him very respectfully and then honestly presented the Earth Book. Noi Tsung's face stiffened, wondering how the young man had gotten this item. After hearing the story, his expression relaxed. 500 taels of gold, huh? That felt the old man was acting strange. His interest in this matter was a bit odd. Just then, Hugh sent a message asking if he had made up his mind and when the transaction would be. Noi Tsung gave a sly smile and returned a mirror to that for him to reply. Because the mirror had been claimed with blood, only that he could use it. Noi Tsung instructed him to tell the man that the transaction would be at Kane Noyet Lao in the city, in a lone Noyet Hoa Min room. The time would be 1 watch hour from now. After that, everything went according to Noi Tsung's words. Hugh, without any suspicion, agreed. Noi Tsung then praised that profusely, but it was limited to words. As for the 500 taels, there was nothing left. The young man that Anne's heart ached as if cut, his eyes filled with tears. Not only was the money gone, but even the mirror was confiscated, boo-hoo. The fellow was deeply hurt and intended to go to a brothel to listen to some music to soothe his wallet-aching mood. But because the Department of Music and Rights was closer, he changed his destination to there. Well, if he couldn't soothe his own mood, he would go soothe Fu Hong's soul. When the lady learned of that Anne's identity as a watchman, she was not disappointed. On the contrary, she liked him even more. A beauty was in his arms, but that Anne's mind was still wondering how Luke Hugh knew the content of his conversation with Hugh. Tam Hugh's mirror shard was sealed, so it couldn't receive messages from other shards, but why could the others with shards all see it? This Earth Book was also like an ancient version of a QQ group chat. If he had known earlier, he would have added more friends when he claimed it with his blood. And the relationship, more tangled than a love triangle between the Heaven and Earth Society and the Earth sect, all of it still had no clear answers. It was just that at this moment, Fu Hong had taken the initiative to grope him. The fellow, though he liked it, shyly told her not to move around so much. Then he picked her up and treated Fu Hong like a dish and began to lick her. The maidservant outside the room, knowing what was happening, had already sneered. At King Noyet Lao at this moment, a person in a black cloak appeared. This person walked directly to a room and knocked on the door. A voice came from inside the room. The door isn't locked. Come in. The person inside was an uncle with a long scar on his face. His eyes observed the newcomer. Dressed like that, he definitely couldn't have entered the city. He must have changed into these clothes after entering King Noyet Lao. There was definitely a weapon hidden in his pocket. The man in the black cloak didn't say much and held out his hand. For the item, the scarred-faced uncle acted his part realistically, replying, "I believe I've said it before. I spent 500 taels of gold to buy this mirror." In his heart, the uncle was crying for his parents. What kind of mirror costs a whole 500 taels of gold? The man in the black cloak immediately acted overbearingly and slammed the money on the table. The two men exchanged money for the item, one hand for each. The scarred-faced uncle was beaming with joy. So this was the mission the watchman gave him. According to the agreement, he would redeem his crimes with merit. Someone else would serve his prison sentence for him. Suddenly, the man in the black cloak drew his sword and slashed, causing the uncle to panic. The stormy sword strike was fast and decisive. While the uncle was still lost in thought, thinking he could escape, he had no chance. In less than a second, the uncle's body was in one place and his soul in another. Before escaping, the man in the black cloak flashed a victor's smile. After leaving the capital city, he went to a certain tea house in the outskirts. The man in the black cloak presented the item to an old man he called gang leader. It was an old man with a hideous face, covered in warts as if from years of filth. This old man's face was grim as he realized the other had brought an enemy. A full-powered sword strike came at them. Without a shred of emotion, he pushed the man in the black cloak forward to block the sword. With a swish, a sword strike as sharp as steel landed and blood splattered everywhere. The swordsman also appeared. It was a Kim La who followed Noi Yuyan, named Jung Tai. The ugly-faced old man, seeing his opponent, threatened the man not to meddle in other people's business. The Kim La ignored the old man and replied with a straight face, "I insist on meddling." The old man angrily crushed the teacup. The slight hint of righteousness vanished, replaced by a wicked expression. Black chi erupted from the old man's body, interspersed with crazed laughter. The Kim La's voice was mocking. "What kind of merit does an earth gong cultivate? Since when did you learn such demonic tricks?" The old man's face contorted as he replied, "This poor Taoist will send you to ask the virtuous heavenly lord." The Kim La intended to use his fist to stop the strange move of that rotten-faced old man. With a bang, as Jung Tai's hand managed to block it, it then dissipated in all directions, forming a 100-ghost formation that trapped him. Even for a fourth-rank martial artist, it would be very difficult to overcome this formation. It was in a completely different league from the formations of the Si Tian Jian. The formations of the Si Tian Jian borrowed the power of heaven and earth and could exist for a long time. In contrast, the formations of the Taoist sect were created by humans and thus existed for a short time. For this Kim La, the 100-ghost formation was very difficult to deal with. Among the main cultivation systems, the Taoist sect was the leader in the domain of the primordial spirit. The 6th-rank Yin spirit of the Taoist sect was also called a ghost emissary in ancient times. At night, they could bewitch people's souls and would rule over the life and death of mortals. This 100-ghost formation was exactly such a technique. Although martial artists also honed their primordial spirits, it only added a layer of defense, lacking offensive techniques in the relevant domain. The 8th rank of the Taoist sect is called Fu Qi, capable of controlling magic treasures and summoning lightning. The Kim La again provoked the old man to use his moves. The old man's face was extremely bitter. "If you want it, you'll get it." Several bolts of lightning snaked into the 100-ghost formation and consumed the blood of the person inside the formation. But against the iron skin and bronze bones of an 8th-rank martial artist, it was barely a scratch. The old man was quite confused as to why his opponent still hadn't fought back. In truth, the man was waiting for his gun. At this moment it arrived. A spear broke through the formation from the outside. It was all part of the Kim La's preparations. If it couldn't be broken from the inside, then break it from the outside. The rotten-faced old man didn't expect the 100-ghost formation could actually be broken. It was truly surreal. At this point, he felt danger and immediately spat out his golden core. His body was carved into a donut by the long spear in the Kim La's hand. The Kim La's face remained emotionless as he tore the old man's body into 100 pieces. Fortunately for the old man, his primordial spirit still remained, so he wasn't completely dead. The Kim La could only retrieve the earth book, while the rotten-faced old man could not be captured, allowing him to escape. Arriving at a certain village, the old man intended to find another body because a Yin spirit cannot operate for long during the day. Without a body to support it, its strength would be greatly reduced. He had jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. His Yin spirit was suppressed by a righteous light from outside. Only now did he realize he had fallen into a trap, and the one who set the trap was none other than Elder Kim Lin. The scene changes to Hao Kai Lao, where the Earth Book has returned to. That Anne's hands. Noi Yuyan also revealed to him that, as expected, the first person to contact him was from the Earth sect and had a murderous plot. He reassured the young lad. The Kim La named Jun Kim was the one who sent him packing, so for now, there would be no more danger. In the coming days, watchmen would also come to guard that Anne's house. After hearing this, then only became more afraid because the old man had still escaped. Now he felt like he was sitting on a time bomb, not knowing when it would go off. Noi Yuyan also had no solution because the Yin spirit of the Earth sect was formless and shapeless. In short, very difficult to kill after chasing that fellow away. Jun Kim then voluntarily admitted his mistake to Noi Yuyan for not being able to hold back the old man, Tu Lin. On the contrary, Noi Yuyan was extremely calm and comforted the young man, saying someone else would take care of this matter. At this time, then thought about his own problem. Although it was said that the Earth Book was claimed by blood, if the old Taoist could give a mirror away, it proved that it wasn't necessarily impossible to change its owner. I'm just a copper gong. Why would they let me keep such an important treasure? Since there are people watching over my house, I don't need to worry about the safety of my aunt and younger sisters for the time being. Afterwards, he carried a bag of stir-fried beans and loudly called out for Brother Swan. Lineok Swan's face went blank. Brother Swan? Ah, he means leader. Chao Kwang Hu was recovering from his injuries, and Tong Din Fong was skipping work. He also didn't believe that his young nephew then would be so diligent as to come to work. That and still put on an honest and hardworking appearance. He glanced at the saltpeter mine case. This case was currently under Brother Swan's charge. He then told Dan about it. The initial suspicion is that remnants of the 10,000 Demon Kingdom are hiding near the capital. This new piece of information made Daden jump in surprise. Although the 10,000 Demon Kingdom was a thing of the past, in recent years, its remnants have still been plotting in 100,000 ways to restore their nation and reclaim their territory. But the Buddhist sects that command the countries of the Western regions are very powerful. Even during the heyday of the 10,000 demon kingdom, they were no match for them. To restore their nation, they must have other means. Hearing this, then it understood the motive. It shifted its target to the Great Fang's explosives. But at the very least, it should have attacked the nearby villages, but there was nothing at all. It only ate the Kuwait tigers near the Great Bear Mountain. It's very likely that because of the saltpeter mine, it did so only to drive away the Kuwait tigers near it. After explaining the whole story, Brother Swan wanted to see his guest out. Unexpectedly, he accidentally knocked over the bag of beans. Brother Swan let out a miserable cry as the beans scattered all over the floor. For a neat freak like him, it was no different from torture. At this time, Then was wandering on the road. He was contemplating 3 difficult choices. 1, go see Fu Hong. 2, go to Fu Hong's place. 3, go find Fu Hong. He decided to forget about it for now. He had to save money to buy a house and move his whole family into the city to be safe. Although playing with the top courtesan didn't cost money, the maids and dancers still had to be paid for. So that night, the young man returned home. In this era, without phones and computers, lacking nightlife activities, besides the Department of Music and Rights, he could only write a little in his diary to kill time. Suddenly, he felt a chill down his spine. For some time now, Elder Kim Lean had been sitting on that in his bed like a statue. The old man's strange voice, with a hint of surprise, said to Thatin, "The last time I saw you, you were still a martial artist in the spirit refinement realm. I didn't expect you to have reached the chi refinement realm now. Patron, you are indeed a lucky star who encounters much good fortune. We meet again." This greeting scared the piss out of Thatin. He wondered about the old man's purpose for breaking into his house. He came just to give him a heads up. The old man's junior brother, Tu Lin, had already returned to the Immortals. He didn't need to worry anymore. Thatin tensed up and asked back, "Did you kill him?" The old man's sour voice corrected him eloquently. This poor Taoist helped him return to the Immortals. Hearing this, Thatin became even more afraid that this old man had come tonight to help him ascend to heaven. An uninvited guest could only be an assassin, because if he could deal with Tu Lin himself, he wouldn't have needed to give up the treasure in the first place. He deduced that the old man's purpose was to let the snipe and the clam grapple, so the fisherman could profit. But the problem was, how did he set up an ambush in advance to kill Tu Lin? Very quickly, he had the answer and was furious. "Damn it, you old man, you were spying on me again." The fact that this old man could find the Hua residence showed that he had been spying on me for a while. Therefore, he naturally also understood my identity as a watchman in the watchman's headquarters. He thought the old man wanted the Earth Book back, but no, he already had one. It was the one he took from the hands of that junior brother, Q Hugh. As for that, Anne's mirror shard, he considered it a thank you gift. No takebacks upon meeting. Kim Lean told him that there are a total of 9 Earth Book shards. He had distributed them to many people. Thatin was one of the chosen, and the other 7 were to form the Heaven and Earth Society. The chosen people all have their own identities. They come from all over the world. Kim Lean promised not to reveal anyone's identity, including that Anne's. The old man came here tonight to extend an invitation for that and to join the Heaven and Earth Society. He was suspicious and uncertain of the old man's intentions, so the young man voiced his doubts. "I'm just a martial artist who has entered the Chi refinement realm. How can I be so highly regarded by the Taoist master?" This poor Taoist has already said it. "Patron, you are a lucky star who encounters much good fortune." Hearing this, then was certain that the Taoist had seen through his strange luck. He then invited the old man to speak clearly. The story was that a few days ago, Kim Lean was seriously injured and had to hide in the capital. His intuition told him that he would meet someone who could help him resolve the crisis. After waiting for a long time, he caught the fish that was Thatin. However, although he knew he was a lucky star, he didn't know the reason why. On the contrary, it was the lady in the carriage that day. Her appearance was magnificent, her spirit heroic. She was a rare person in this world. That N's act of giving the Bodhi bead string to her has destined the 2 of them to have a good fate in the future. He spoke as if it were true, but didn't get to the point. Truly a divine swindler. The 7 people in the Heaven and Earth Society were chosen in the same way the old man chose Thatin. He was curious about the reason. The old man then put on a dangerous look and warned. After hearing what this poor Taoist is about to say, "Patron, you'll have no way out." The young man told him to just say it. Unexpectedly, his answer for everything he did was to save the Earth sect. The answer made that Anne sweat, both his mother's and his mother's child's. Pull out. Only now did the old man point out a few strange things to Thatin. Earthgongs cultivate merit, but that junior brother of Kim Lean, Tu Lin, wanted to drive him to his death, killing the death row inmate who was to make the trade for him. This completely went against the philosophy of cultivating merit. Thatin was secretly terrified. Fortunately, he wasn't blinded by treasures and silver at the beginning, thus avoiding this danger and also showing his loyalty to Noyuyan. After saying this, Kim Lean sighed in frustration. The current head of the Earth sect was corrupted, affecting everyone. Only he and a small portion of the Taoist sect's people were unaffected. And the thing that protected them was the Earth book. That and once again found it hard to believe. The Earth sect cultivates merit, and as the leader of a sect, one must have immeasurable merit. But such a person was corrupted. Kim Lean said, as if mocking himself, success is also due to merit. Failure is also due to merit. When a virtuous heavenly lord founded the Earth sect, he passed down a saying, whether it is a blessing or a curse, it is caused by oneself. The retribution for good and evil is always staggered within. That was secretly bitter. Can you speak like a human? Unexpectedly, the old man asked a difficult question. Patron, do you think saving a person's life is a merit? Is it not? But what if the person saved is a great villain? He should have been punished by the heavens. But in the end, he was saved by you, patron, and continues to do evil. Is this still a good deed? Surprisingly, that in relying on his years of immersion in philosophy, also spouted a philosophy. Human nature is mutable. Light and darkness are intertwined. One cannot resent and hate the light just because one has encountered darkness. I cannot dig into a person's past before saving him. Only now did the young man seem like a proper protagonist. Hearing this, Kim Lean was relieved, because when Aden said these words, he could now truly feel at ease in trusting the Earth book to him. He added that what Aden said was indeed not wrong for ordinary people. But for the people of the Earth sect, this was the most terrifying karma. The deeper the accumulated merit, the heavier the karma. The Taoist master is an example. He spent his life doing good and accumulating virtue. Before the Jiazi year, 60 years ago, he failed his tribulation, suffered a backlash from his merits, and fell into the demonic path. This is what is called the water overflowing when the cup is full. To obtain the merit of the righteous path, one must also bear the corresponding karma. One thought to become an immortal, one thought to become a demon. This is a fate that every member of the Earth sect cannot escape. Then was shaken by this great secret. Suddenly, he thought, if the good fortune on me has the same origin as the Earth sects, doesn't that mean I'm also at risk of falling into the demonic path? Returning to the matter of the Earth sect's danger of falling into the demonic path, the two sects from the same father, but different grandfathers, heaven and human, also have their own dangers. Moreover, this was the Earth sect business, so they didn't care at all. The old man's true purpose for establishing the Heaven and Earth Society was to kill the Taoist master and cleanse the sect. When Aden heard that the Taoist master had reached the second rank, what little excitement he had vanished completely. He trembled like a leaf and wanted to return the mirror. An upright man like him didn't want to get involved with this dangerous item. The stinky old Taoist still tried his best to entice the young man with his eye for people. The 8 people in the Heaven and Earth Society, including that would all be people with great ambitions in the future. Everyone comes from the 4 corners of the world and will one day meet. The old man tried his best to persuade the young fellow to join the group to avoid casualties later due to disputes. If it was really as the old Taoist said, then the people in the Heaven and Earth Society were all true geniuses. Aden felt that living in this collective, he would play an important role at a crucial moment. Finally, he sealed the deal. All right, before leaving, Kim Lean instructed that if he ever needed help, he should contact him through the Earth book, or if other members were in the capital, he could ask them for help. The purpose of establishing the Earth sect was to help each other. In addition, the Earth book shards were also named after the order of their holders. With that said, the Ean's spirit dissipated. It seemed to Aden that this stinky old Taoist held no ill will towards him. He was unfathomably deep, so it was impossible to see through his schemes. He gave the mirror to him, borrowed the hand of the watchman to deal with his own sect brother, and then became the biggest beneficiary. Based on this point alone, this old Taoist was clearly an old fox. But only an old fox can deal with an old fox. If he wanted to make his way in the capital, he had to hold on tightly to this solid support. As a new member of the Heaven and Earth Society, Aden decided to add each member as a friend. Then he sent a message greeting everyone. The young man waited for a long time, but everyone just saw the message and didn't reply. He sent it again. Everyone, I am Tran Kin Nam. Please give me your guidance. It was a long time before someone replied. It was Luke Hugh. That person had contacted Taoist Master Kim Lean and learned the general situation. Therefore, he expressed his thanks to Aden. The young man tossed his hair in a very punchable way, thinking it was a small matter, nothing, just almost lost his life. Luke Hugh was surprised to see him treating the matter so lightly. That day, he had seen the conversation of that foolish fellow with Tu Lean, clearly at the lowest realm. But the truth was that Aden had helped Kim Lean kill Tu Lean and retrieve Q Hugh's Earth book. Luke Hugh guessed that this time, Hugh must have crappy strength, but a very impressive background. At this moment, a line of text from another member caught that Anne's attention. It was a message from me, Hugh, asking, what dramas happened lately? Kim Lean, who was holding Q Hugh's shard, recounted the story. Last time, I took advantage of the Taoist master's deep sleep to sneak back to the Earth sect, but I was ambushed. I had to flee to the capital of Great Foam to save my life. To avoid pursuit, I gave the mirror to the little brother Tran Kin Nam. Damn, Aden really wanted to kick that old man's ass. Not only did he reveal his identity, but he also hinted at the young man's age. Now he couldn't pretend to be a cross-dresser or a great expert anymore. When Ni Hugh read the message, he let out a surprised "oh." He unexpectedly asked which Yaman Tam Hugh belonged to. That-in's face was dumbfounded. He then wrote sarcastically that the yamen in the capital were nothing but a bunch of idle freeloaders. Through this message, Luke Hugh and Ni Hugh made all sorts of guesses about that-in's identity. In fact, the young man then was very pleased with his own tone. It was very similar to the way Confucian scholars spoke. Only educated people were great experts. That's right, it was just like Watani and Sharp Tongue. Ni Hugh suddenly remembered that Not Hugh was also in the capital, so he tagged Not Hugh and started talking. Not Hugh calmly replied about the incident at Kane Noyet Lao today. Then, intentionally or not, he asked Ni Hugh about the bandit problem in Van Chao, which made Ni Hugh salty. That in eavesdropping on the side found it very interesting. Ni Hugh dragged Not Hugh down with him, simultaneously revealing that both he and Not Hugh were in the capital, while Tam Hugh, who was that and didn't know the information of the others. Ni Hugh could have chosen not to reveal Not Hugh's information, but it was clear that Ni Hugh was targeting Not Hugh. Immediately, Not Hugh returned the favor. He released information. When his own information was leaked, Not Hugh also counterattacked Ni Hugh. Ni Hugh was in a bandit's den in Van Chao. Ni Hugh, somewhere, was furiously typing curses at the foolish emperor of Great Foam. All day long, he only knew how to cultivate, ignoring the suffering of the people. These frustrated words showed that Ni Hugh was not a person of the court. That-in thought to himself, is this the ancient version of a hot-tempered youth? Ni Hugh continued to talk about this year's events. It was estimated that about 60,000 commoners had fled and become refugees or else became robbers. Ni Hugh had wiped out more than a dozen bandits and discovered many hidden forces behind them, but still had no clues. The topic of conversation returned to the capital. That-in carefully chose his words to tell the story of Minister Chao being dismissed. The struggles had begun. However, the downfall of Minister Chao was a bit absurd. The scheming son of the minister had a moment of folly and wanted to plot the rape of the daughter of the Minister of War. These words of that and all had a purpose, besides passing information to Ni Hugh to show his level. It was also to probe Not Hugh. Those qualified to participate in court disputes would know. The real reason Minister Chao was dismissed was the tax silver case. If Not Hugh were to find fault in that-in's words, it would prove that Not Hugh was a person of the court. Although he cast the line, that person was not a fish. Number one had changed the subject. The matter Taoist Master Jin Lian had asked to investigate. The day the Sub-Saints Temple of Yunlu Academy was sealed was indeed Jiazi Day. On that day, among the outsiders at Yunlu Academy, besides the eldest princess, there was also a yamen runner named Su Qian. The person in question was startled. He wondered what kind of background this number one had to be investigating the events of that day. And why was Taoist Master Jin Lian concerned about the changes at Yunlu Academy? This was something that only the scholars at the Guozijian should be concerned with. Why was this old geezer involved in everything? Returning to number one's message, he continued to assess the yamen runner, Qian. Nothing special, apart from a talent for poetry. He had only reached the essence refining realm. Not a student of Yunlu Academy, and certainly not a scholar. In short, ordinary and insignificant. Being looked down upon, Qian wanted to blacklist this number one immediately. Jin Lian, who had been silent until now, chimed in, I know. Qian then voiced his suspicion. Taoist master, why are you so concerned about the changes at Yunlu Academy? I want to know if the steel at the Sub-Saints Temple has cracked or not. Is this very important? Quite important. Qian felt a pang of unease because this matter was related to him. He certainly wouldn't let this old Taoist know. Afterwards, Qian had something he wanted to ask the others. Does alchemy belong exclusively to the Si Tianjian? From this naive question, the others, with their suspicious minds, began to speculate about the young man's true identity. They were certain that if number three asked this question, he couldn't be a disciple of the Si Tianjian. He was most likely a scholar from Yunlu Academy, a student highly regarded by the Academy's elders. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to invite a high-grade expert to kill Zilian. On the side, Qian smiled because his initial idea had succeeded. Saying these words would lead their thinking, making them assume he was a student of Yunlu Academy, or they would feel he was a life mentor or an alchemist from the Si Tianjian. By the time they realized he might be at a Gung Run, they would then discover he was actually a student of Yunlu Academy. This was like a game of werewolf, and this guy Qian was a master at it. Number 6 was the first to speak up and answer points 600 years ago. The warlock system did not yet exist. It was only after the founding of Defeng that warlocks appeared in the Si Tianjian. In other words, besides the Si Tianjian, there are almost no alchemists in the world, or perhaps very few. Otherwise, when Qian pulled out a high school chemistry textbook, the alchemists would have found it strange. That was why all alchemists wanted to learn chemical theory. Because of the short history of warlocks, a comprehensive theoretical curriculum could not be formed. Qian then wondered if alchemists were involved in the tax silver case. The Si Tianjian seemed to have a negative attitude towards alchemists interfering in the tax silver case, which was extremely unreasonable. After number 6 answered the question, according to the rules, Qian also had to answer a question from number 6. The other person's question was, what is a second-grade Confucian called? This question was intended to probe Qian's social status. Ordinary Confucian students would not know what a second-grade Confucian was called. In the steal about the life story of the great Confucian, the second-grade Qian Zhong did not clearly explain his realm. Luckily, for anything difficult, his younger brother had it covered. Erlang had previously explained it clearly to him. The reason he knew was because he was the favorite student of Zhang Shun. He also had the bonus of being a Jiren who passed the provincial examination and was also quite influential in Yunlu Academy. Back to number 6, seemingly random question. Assuming Qian was not a student of Yunlu Academy, this method of probing was still effective. Not being a Confucian student, but still knowing about the second grade, would prove an even higher social status. If he didn't answer this question, in everyone's eyes, he would be someone at the bottom of society. Finally, he typed his answer. A second-grade Confucian is called a great Confucian. A long time passed with no reply. Qian frowned at the low cultural level of this group. They didn't even know how to make a sound online, truly a group with no class. Speaking of which, the Taoist head of the Earth sect fell into the demonic path before the Jiazi year. The Heaven and Earth Society also appeared before that year, in which the Heaven and Earth Society was a rather loosely organized group. The members communicated with each other, but were still wary of one another. But since everyone came from all over the world, and some are not even from the phone, mutual vigilance was normal. The immediate benefit was sharing information with each other. It was like a chat website. If they became close online, they might have a chance to meet in person later. Currently, 3 people had appeared, 1, 2, and 6. Qian deduced the identities of these 3. Number 2 was in the distant Yinzhou, but had a rather high status. Number 1 was in the capital, a person with real status, position, and strength even greater than Qian's. As for number 6, who had previously warned him not to reply to number 9's message, he had also said he was in the capital. For now, he needed to carefully keep an eye on number 1 and number 6. The other members were all very far away, so even if they knew his identity, it wouldn't matter as there was no conflict of interest. The other members had not yet appeared. At this time, at Lingbao Temple in the Dufeng Imperial City, a place built by the current emperor for the human sect ever since the Taoist head of the human sect was appointed as the national teacher. Wei Yuan appeared at a quiet chamber. He immediately went inside. A person sitting behind screen was curious about the visitor's arrival. Wei Yuan entered with a grim face to inquire about the Earth sect. A woman's voice came from behind the screen. Lord Wei, you know everything from the heavens above to the earth below. What need is there to ask this humble Taoist? Lord Wei seemed to reply helplessly as if asking, is it because I scolded you that year, saying women and petty men are difficult to cultivate, that you've resented me until now? The other person fell silent. Wei Yuan continued to probe whether the other party needed a fragment of the Earth Scroll. Both then understood each other's intentions and revealed nothing more. Upon returning, Wei Yuan had not obtained any information from that female Taoist head, but it seemed to him that something had definitely happened to the Earth sect. In recent years, natural disasters have been rampant. Calamities were everywhere. The climate in Dafeng was also abnormal, and the various cultivation systems were continuously revealing many problems. Wei Yuan felt that something was about to happen. Yang Tai thought his adoptive father was overthinking. That day, they went to the Si Tianjian. The director had said the omens were all normal, but Wei Yuan did not believe the words of the one who spies on heavenly secrets. He wanted to find out the situation of the Earth sect at all costs. Yang Tai wanted to persuade him further, but Wei Yuan roared. He reminded his son that he must find out. The son immediately fell silent and could only obey. The next morning at Qian's house, it was little Lingyin, herding geese. Because she considered the geese her peers, the little girl felt she was truly invincible. Qian threw a judgmental look at her. Invincibly stupid, that is. Lingyin was still proud that among the children of the same age in the residence, no one could beat her. Of course, that was because she was the only young child in the residence. Qian had no choice but to give her a thumbs up and praise. You're the best. The two of them then went out for breakfast. While they were enjoying their meal, their aunt slyly mentioned that Ling Yue had reached a marriageable age. Ling Yue immediately protested. The aunt immediately threatened. This wasn't a matter of whether Ling Yue wanted to or not, because in ancient times, an 18-year-old who wasn't married was already considered an old spinster. Ling Yue then used Xin Yin to shield herself. Second brother isn't married yet, but the aunt had decided that if her son wanted to get married, he had to get married first, while Ling Yue had truly reached marriageable age. Otherwise, she could only become a nun. Uncle Su on the side sighed that the children had grown up in the blink of an eye. Ling Yue heard this and remembered what her big brother once said. The little girl said happily, "Big sister has grown up, so big sister is a troublemaker." Qian hurriedly muzzled the little girl. He also spoke up for Ling Yue. If she wanted to marry, she should marry someone as outstanding as him. He added that because their aunt married an outstanding man like second uncle, she could live such a comfortable life. Uncle Su was delighted. His nephew only spoke the truth. Xin Yin's spirits suddenly brightened as he announced to the family that he would soon have to return to Yunlu Academy to prepare for the provincial examination. But looking at the family, no one seemed seemed to care, which made the young man feel a chill. It was still the aunt who was the fairest, taking the pastry Lingyin had picked and giving it to her son. At this moment, Lingyue looked pitiful and begged her big brother, saying she didn't want to get married yet. Qian acted high and mighty, asking since when was it the aunt's turn to be in charge of household matters. As a result, during that meal, Qian got a beating instead of rice. Later, at the Haoqi building, the two guards were surprised to see Qian's roguish face. Usually, a copper gong like Qian would not be qualified to report to Lord Wei, because above them were silver gongs and golden gongs, and Lord Wei would not agree to see a copper gong. Therefore, the two guards were envious of Qian's treatment, being able to meet Lord Wei directly. At this moment, his eyes were looking up at the sky. When Qian arrived, he didn't know what matter brought him here. Of course, it was to flatter. Outwardly, the young man still honestly recounted last night's events. Wei Yuan was intrigued by the matter of the Heaven and Earth Society. Seeing this reaction, Qian felt that his boss would be interested in this intelligence. He recounted the general situation of the Heaven and Earth Society to Wei Yuan. The initiator was Taoist Master Jin Lian of the Earth Sect and the Earth Sect disciples behind him. The members of the Heaven and Earth Society consisted of 9 people, who were also the holders of the other mirror fragments. They used the order of the mirrors for their names and did not reveal their real names. For now, it was known that number 1 was in the capital and had considerable influence. Number 2 was in Yunzhou, suppressing bandits, suspected to be a court official. Wei Yuan's curiosity was piqued, and he continued to ask about Jin Lian. Qian then revealed the other's purpose for establishing the Heaven and Earth Society was because something had happened to the Earth Sect. Wei Yuan was startled and asked Qian to elaborate, which was that the Taoist head of the Earth Sect had fallen into the demonic path. This had affected most of the Earth Sect disciples. Thanks to the protection of the Earth Scroll, only a few managed to stay sane and leave the sect. Thus, Jin Lian established the Heaven and Earth Society, giving the Earth Scroll to talents across the world, guiding them so that when it was time to clean up the sect, he would have helpers. After hearing this, Wei Yuan finally understood why that Zi Lian had become so strange. He then asked Qian's feeling about why Jin Lian told him these things. Qian was about to say he didn't know, but the words died on his lips. With a mind as scheming as Wei Yuan's, he was probing for an answer from him, testing his level. The young man quickly replied, all the members of the Heaven and Earth Society are aware of the strange situation in the Earth Sect. Taoist Master Jin Lian told me everything as a way of expressing his gratitude. Wei Yuan then revealed a truth to Qian. The whereabouts of the Earth Sect were concealed, and to this day, the Dagungren still did not know the inside story of the Taoist head falling into the demonic path. Qian was stunned. Lord Wei's meaning was that Taoist Master Jin Lian had turned him into an intermediary, revealing this secret to get Wei Yuan to ally with him. Wei Yuan nodded. He gave Qian the mission to be a spy in the Heaven and Earth Society, responsible for investigating the identities of the remaining members. When necessary, the Yamen would provide support. Qian immediately accepted the order, feeling a lingering fear in his heart. If he had answered slowly just now, Wei Yuan might have demanded the Earth Scroll back. Then he would find a brilliant subordinate to replace him and infiltrate the Heaven and Earth Society as a spy. The probing of a great figure was like a gust of wind. If one was not careful, a mistake would immediately occur. At this time, Qian's realm was already the Qi refining realm, so Wei Yuan allowed him to go to the scripture pavilion to choose a unique skill to cultivate. The young man wanted to practice the saber, so Wei Yuan reminded him that when choosing a unique skill, he should choose a simple saber technique, not something flashy or overly complex. Warriors were different from other systems. They didn't have many supernatural abilities, only monstrous strength. Therefore, the purer a warrior was, the better. Only after entering the high-grade realm would one understand these muddled principles. Qian sincerely expressed his thanks. He now saw the benefit of choosing the right platform. Holding Lord Wei's letter, the young man thought about his future. If I can gain Wei Yuan's recognition and praise, my path as an official and in martial arts will be much easier. In the future, I must become a great boss like him. At this moment, Brother Chun had to admire the flattering speed of this new subordinate. Qian explained that Lord Wei had summoned him on his own initiative. Brother Chun was quite surprised, but quickly saw the possibility, since Qian's A-grade aptitude was personally assessed by Lord Wei. So it was natural that he would want to cultivate him. When a subordinate is praised, he also shares in the glory. Afterwards, Qian was led to the scripture pavilion, surrounded by knowledge. He brazenly asked the leader which saber technique was the most domineering. Brother Chun knew at a glance what this guy wanted. He explained briefly that unique skills were divided into 2 types. One was technique, and the other was Tao. Qian shouldn't even think about the latter. As for the former, there was no strong or weak, it only depended on the person. An hour later, Qian still hadn't found a suitable manual. Brother Chun was getting a little impatient. There was no other way, as this guy Qian also suffered from indecisiveness. Brother Chun had to ask the person here if any new saber manuals had recently been acquired. The person replied yes. A few days ago, the Tianjian had brought over several unique skill manuals that cost several thousand taels of silver. Hearing the number, Brother Chun was startled. It was just right for Qian. A unique skill manual worth several thousand taels of silver would be of better quality than the books here. There might be a manual on the Tao of the Saber. Qian was also attracted by this item. Normally, only high-grade martial artists could possess a Dao-level unique skill. It contained their lifetime of enlightenment on the martial Dao. To become a high-grade warrior, one could not touch this type of unique skill, because it was someone else's Dao, but the remnants could be learned. Brother Chun ordered the person to bring it over right away. Qian took it and looked. The cover read, Heaven and Earth One Blade Slash. The person who gave it this name was either an edgy teenager or completely delusional. As soon as he opened the first page, the book was buried. There is nothing in this world that one slash cannot cut. If there is, I suggest you run away. He really wanted to throw this damn book away. Qian still tried to hold back his curses. Next, the words in the book became more coherent, that IT can cut anything in this world, including heaven, earth, and the enemy. Any superfluous killing move is an insult to the martial Dao. I only swing one slash. If you don't die, I will. Qian closed his eyes to comprehend these words and then decided to choose it. Night had come, and it was time for work. Patrolling the streets was the job of the imperial sword guards. The Degungren were only responsible for catching nimble-fingered thieves. Normally, they would sit on rooftops to observe, and unless they encountered a major case, they were not allowed to jump around recklessly. Song Tingfeng warned Qian that the capital's waters ran deep, with countless masters hiding in the shadows. If you jump around on the rooftops, you might get logged out by someone flying out from the darkness. Of course, the Degungren would help clean up the body and provide a pension to the victim's relatives. For a copper gong like Qian, it would be 300 taels of silver, enough for your wife to live a prosperous life. But in Qian's currency, that was 5 visits to the Jiaofeng Sea. The young man's thoughts turned negative. Then your wife will become someone else's wife. That man will spend your money, be intimate with your wife, and even beat your children. Suddenly, the two young men felt that life was so fortunate. Song Tingfeng suddenly remembered that Qian had chosen a unique skill and asked about it. Qian scratched his head for a while before giving his assessment. Its combat practicality is very strong, and its explosive power is even stronger. It's a 10 out of 10, but you can only slash once. It's all or nothing. Now he felt that the opening words of this unique skill were truly golden. The essence of the saber technique was to be a real man for 1 second. After the slash, you collapse. The advantage is its strong explosive power. Perhaps with high-level cultivation, one could even kill across realms. Since he was free at the moment, the young man took it out to review. Qian held the book like a treasure. The thing was, this afternoon, Xin Yin had been entrusted by several great Confucians to bring a book home for Qian. This book recorded the unique skills of various cultivation systems. The 3 great Confucians had compiled the spells they had collected into this book. Then they gave it to Qian. Qian could almost smell the sour vinegar from his younger brother. Although jealous, Xin Yin still had to download the knowledge for his older brother. A 6th grade Confucian is called a Confucian scholar. The core of this realm is learning. They can record spells they have seen on paper. If Big Brother uses his chi to burn the paper, he can cast the spells within. Qian's face lit up. Confucianism is truly an unbeatable support class. He asked his younger brother to pass a message to the 3 great Confucians. Tell them I will personally visit to thank them and discuss poetry with them someday. He knew well that the 3 great Confucians didn't give gifts for no reason. They certainly had their own motives. The more Xinyan looked at his big brother, the more annoyed he became, wishing this guy would just scram. At this time, Qian had taken out his new item to test. He tore out a piece of paper and burned it. Immediately, Qian's eyes were buffed with enhanced vision. He now possessed the ability of a warlock to see Qi. Qi exists in all things in heaven and earth. In his vision, the direction of the imperial city was filled with purple Qi. Qian's gaze then shifted to a stream of colorful qi. It was completely different from the purple qi representing the imperial city. Taoist Master Jin Lian had once said that he and that lady in the royal carriage would have a fateful connection. And the Taoist master had also described that lady as having a beautiful appearance and a heroic spirit, a rare person in the world. The young man had some sort of judgment. At this moment, there was another stream of qi in the direction of the imperial city. Kavai had once said that Cyan Qi represents Confucianism or people from the Taoist sections. Suddenly, he froze when he saw that the Jiaofeng Sea was an emerald green color. He thought to himself, the women in the Jiaofeng Sea are mostly relatives of convicted officials. I'm probably overthinking it. When I get back, I'll ask Kavai what the green Qi represents. After thinking for a moment, the green Qi had disappeared at some point. Qian then looked towards the Sea Tianjian. He was curious what color was there. Then bang, his eyes stung with pain. His two friends saw this and thought someone was launching a sneak attack. Only Qian at this moment felt like his eyes were about to go blind. Song Tingfeng calmly asked him what had just happened. Qian recounted that he had a piece of paper with the Qi observation technique from Yunlu Academy, and he had just used it to look at the Sea Tianjian. His two friends whispered to the side about their friend Qian's character. He actually used the Qi observation technique to look at the stargazing tower, as stupid as a dog. Song Tingfeng asked him if he knew that the director loved to sit in solitude on the top floor of the stargazing tower. Of course, the cat knew. Song Tingfeng leaned in and asked if he knew that the head of the warlock system was the director. This he knew. Song Tingfeng's face was now close to Qian's as he asked again. So you used the Qi observation technique to look at the director. Isn't that just courting death? This, the young man truly did not know. Zhu Guangxiao was too tired to even speak. Let that guy figure it out for himself. Just then, a signal flare appeared in the sky. The red light was a warning to them. It was usually used when searching for and arresting people. This light was very close to where the three of them were. The other two were righteous enough to go ahead, letting Qian wait for his eyes to recover. At this moment, another Dagung Ren saw Qian loitering and stopped to inform him that something had happened. Earl Pingyuan has been killed. The two people in charge of this area have been injured. The thief escaped using his secret art. Qian was shocked by the hot news. Earl Pingyuan was actually killed. Although the power of the meritorious nobles had plummeted, he was still an earl, and there must be experts in his residence. But that culprit managed to kill the earl, injure the Dagung Ren, and then leave leisurely. This was no ordinary expert. There was no doubt that if he encountered him, he would only suffer, but the young man was still confident that with his lucky philtrum, he wouldn't run into him. Just then, he received a message from the Earth Scroll. He was silently cursing whoever was so bored as to be chatting in the middle of the night when he saw the sender was number 6. The person was sending a message asking for help. He was trapped in the inner city and was being pursued by the Dagung Ren. In about an hour, the warlocks from the Tianjian would arrive. Qian read the message with a head full of question marks. He was startled and afraid. Could it be that number 6 was that culprit? Number 2 at this time probed number 6 about breaking through the encirclement with force. But he couldn't, as he was still too far from the city gate, and there were Dagung Ren and imperial sword guards patrolling the streets at night. And after getting out of the inner city, there was still the outer city. He also had no magical artifact to conceal his tracks. To make matters worse, number 6 had already given up. Game over. Qian also felt that being in the inner city, especially, it was impossible to escape the pursuit of the Dagung Ren. At this moment, a person who hadn't appeared for a long time, number 4, sent a message. I have some friendship with the Taoist head of the human sect, but it's the Lingbao Hall in the imperial city. Monk, I can't help you. Number 2 was extremely annoyed, saying that was as good as saying nothing. Seeing a bit of number 4's background, Qian thought to himself that the stinky old Taoist wasn't lying. The holders of the Earth Scroll were no ordinary people. He keenly noticed that number 4 addressed number 6 as monk, which showed that number 6 was from the Buddhist sect. He now had a new perspective on this gang. Although the holders of the Earth Scroll were all wary of their identities being exposed, they had a strong sense of camaraderie. At this time, number 1 spoke up, asking what number 6 had done. The other party typed a few words that, though few, were shocking. Enough, I killed Earl Pingyuan. Qian cursed inwardly. Damn it, it really is him. Tonight's culprit is really him. He also didn't expect the other party to admit it so quickly. So straightforward. Even that day when he asked if he was a member of the Heaven and Earth Society, he admitted it without hesitation. Could it be that monks do not lie? But what the hell is a monk doing killing people? And what the hell was he doing going to Earl Pingyuan's house in the middle of the night to kill him? Qian was about to go crazy from this strange phone character. At this moment, number 1's message appeared. The other party expressed regret that he could not help number 6. Elder Jean Lien had to speak up to persuade number 1. We are all members of the Heaven and Earth Society. If you can help, please do. He believed that number 6 would not kill without reason. Qian fell into deep thought again. Taoist Master Jean Lien believed that number 1 could save number 6 even with the Dagung Ren, the imperial sword guards, and the warlocks from the Tianjian arriving. This showed that number 1's status and position were even higher than Qian had thought. He wondered if it was because number 6 killed Earl Pingyuan that number 1 was determined not to help him. So, through this incident, then was able to get a rough idea of the backgrounds of the people in the group. Number 2 is an enthusiastic person. Number 6 is a Buddhist, upright, and does not lie. Number 4 has dealings with the Taoist head of the human sect, but his identity is unclear. Number 9 is Taoist Master Golden Lotus. Number 1 is a court official, likes to probe others, and holds a very high position. This that fellow was getting more and more addicted to this werewolf game. He also intended to pretend to be a god in front of everyone. First, he messaged number 6 that he could help him, but first, he wanted to know the reason why he killed Count Pingyuan. In his heart, that calculated that if number 6 was a bad person, he would expose him to help the Heaven and Earth Society get rid of an evil person. And first, he needed to trick number 6 into revealing his hiding place to prevent future trouble. Breaking into Count Pingyuan's mansion in the middle of the night to kill him, and even seriously injuring the gongsman before calmly hiding away, this was definitely a master. If he had his own reasons, then wouldn't mind lending a hand. Meanwhile, the message sent by number 3 surprised the others. They were even more puzzled about number 3's background and how he could help number 6 leave. At times like these, moving around the city without a proper identity would lead to immediate capture. Then, a message from Golden Lotus further affirmed confirmed that Anne's credibility. Seeing that Taoist Master Golden Lotus trusted number 3 so much, everyone could no longer look down on him. The 6th rank sighed and said, "I have a junior martial brother. He has been missing for over a year. I suspect he was kidnapped and taken away through a secret tunnel in the city. After much investigation and inquiry, I found an organization called Na Tuesday. They lure and kidnap women and children, then sell them to brothels, beggar gangs, and any place that needs women and children. They not only kidnap women and children, but also cultivators, but I haven't been able to figure out how they do it. Finally, I discovered that the person behind that Na Tu organization was none other than Count Ping Yuan. I snuck into Count Ping Yuan's mansion to ask for news of my junior brother, but was unsuccessful, so I killed him to bring salvation to the innocent souls he had wronged." After hearing the story, number 1 asked why he didn't report it to the authorities. Number 2 had a negative view of the law. If it were useful, Count Ping Yuan would have been reincarnated long ago. The officials protect each other. You can't see any gods 3 feet above your head. Justice only lies under the blade. That leaned more towards number 1, because killing was, after all, an unwise act. However, from this, it could be deduced that besides being upright, number 6 was a man of action, using his fists instead of his mouth to persuade others. Number 6 then stated his own reasons. He had saved many children within a year. Among them were those who had their limbs cut off, lying prostrate on the roadside to beg. The smart ones would be trained to become thieves. But that wasn't the most infuriating thing. He once saved a child who had been captured by the Natu and disguised as a black dog. They taught him to say lucky words to please unsuspecting people and ask for money. Number 1 was also moved by these words, especially that end. He was now convinced by number 6. Although the young man hated martial artists who used force illegally and acted without thinking, this time he agreed to help him. Number 2 and number 4 also agreed with the opinion of number 3. Their favorable impression of the unseen that it had increased considerably. Number 6, from some corner, also clasped his hands and chanted Amitabha Buddha to show his gratitude. Number 6 then revealed his location, in a sewer outside Count Ping Yuan's mansion. That and understood immediately and told him to trust him. Now, the problem fell on that and shoulders. How to get number 6 out of this predicament. He wanted to get him out of the inner city, but the roads were patrolled by imperial blade guards and gongsmen. He could only turn a blind eye in the area he patrolled. Time was running out like a pressing deadline. He tried his best to think of the fastest way. Otherwise, once the imperial blade guards and the gongsmen sealed off the surroundings and intensified the investigation, not even the author's father could save him. Based on the current situation, 2 things had to be done. 1 was to help number 6 find a hiding place. 2 was to help him conceal his aura. The first part wasn't difficult. As long as he could get through the night, number 6 could disguise himself as a commoner and leave on his own the next morning. The difficult part was how to help number 6 conceal his aura. After killing someone, it's inevitable to be tainted with a baleful aura. And with that, it would be absolutely impossible to get past the aura-gazing technique of the Citian Jin sorcerers. He considered making a secret deal with Song Qing, but quickly abandoned the idea. From their last transaction, he still owed him a periodic table of elements. Besides, Song Qing was also upright. Getting his help in this case would be difficult unless he could win the heart of the little beauty Kai Wei. Another way was to lock him in the Earth Book, but that wouldn't hide his aura and would still be detected by the Citian Jin's aura-gazing technique. There was one last method, which was also the reason for the ever-cocky that to be so confident, which was the one leaf blinds the eyes technique from the book he was given, which could allow the caster of the spell to become invisible and conceal their aura. The young man then tiptoed to find an empty room. After prying open a window, he began to search for number 6 location. After spotting the location, he immediately shot an arrow. Number 6 was startled, thinking he had been discovered. Then he read the message sent by number 3, saying it was prepared by him. The item on the arrow was what he needed, that a room at an inn had been prepared for him to hide. Number 6 was relieved and grabbed the arrow. At this point, number 6's identity was also revealed, along with his heartthrob avatar. He is Hing Yuan, a fierce-faced, tall old monk. When he opened it and saw the paper was for one leaf blinds the eyes, he became even more certain that number 3 was a Confucian scholar. He then burned it. Immediately, a power suppressed Hing Yuan's aura. He was surprised because this was not something an ordinary 5th-rank virtuous realm practitioner could do. It had to be at least a 4th-rank gentleman realm. Hing Yuan became even more convinced that number 3's identity was not just a Confucian scholar, but possibly a scholar valued by some great Confucian master. Hing Yuan didn't have time to think any further and quickly fled. He looked up and saw that in standing there, and he inwardly assessed, this gongbanger has a calm mind and an extraordinary aura. With that thought, the two of them passed each other by.